Howdy folks, AJ coming at you again, your resident vintage gamer. And today's video is going to be in honor of my favorite Facebook page that I belong to, Old School Role-Playing. So if you are not a paper and pencil role-playing game person, this may not be of interest to you. You're welcome to stick around. If you're one of my subscribers or viewers that tunes in for video game reviews and that type of thing, this may not be for you. But you're welcome to stick around. So, for those that are the old school role-playing game type persons, this is going to be right up your alley. On our Facebook page, Old School Role-Playing, we have a monthly topic, and this month's topic is do-it-yourself gaming aids and plot hooks. It's kind of a dual theme deal this month. So what I've done is I went ahead and gathered up some of the items that I have collected over the years that I believe actually will fit both of those topics. It's actually kind of a twofer. So let's get started. So one of the great things about if you are a DM, game master, dungeon master, whatever, basically you get to make the rules. Sure, the rule books, the core rule books and everything that come for the game and all that, they set the tone and everything else, but as it was put to me by the late great Gary Gygax himself, he basically said that as long as you are having fun DMing and your group is having fun playing, you can do whatever you want, is basically what he said. And he says, and there's no one going to tell you you're right or you're wrong or whatever. Just have a ball is basically what he said to me. And so along that vein, what I do is I keep my eyes open whenever I'm going to, say, shopping with my wife to some, shopping area or whatever. I'm always looking for little trinkets and things that I could incorporate into my, role-playing games. So let's go way back. This is from the 70s. I belong to the Scholastic Book Club. I'm sure a lot of you that older folks will remember that. In school, I belonged to the Scholastic Book Club, and they had a little newsletter that that went out as part of the book club type deal. And I remember this had to be like 1975 or something like that. And I saved this all the way back then. I was a 10-year-old kid or whatever, and for whatever reason, I found it important. I thought it important enough to save it. And what this is it's a hieroglyphic primer. And basically, with this, if I'm running an Egyptian-typed themed campaign in whether it's Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, and for me it would most likely be set in the world of Greyhawk, and I wanted to do a setting in the Sea of Dust, in the desert type area, and I wanted to do it as an Egyptian type theme. There's of course the past great classic, whatever you want, vintage, whatever you want to call it, series called the Desert of Desolation series, for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition. I believe those were 2nd edition modules, and they were set, of course, in a Egyptian style theme. So I could work this right in to that as part of my campaign. I could take this, and these hieroglyphics are simple enough to where I could do. I could buy some parchment paper, and I could freehand a message using these onto the parchment paper, and burn the edges and make it look cool, and all that, and roll it up and put some twine around it, whatever, and as part of and work that right into my campaign for, say, the Desert of Desolation series. And I could say, at some point, I could say, pull that out, have not let the players see it until I'm ready, and then pull that out and say, okay, you're in a room, or you're in a tavern, and somebody comes along and hands you, a cloaked figure comes along and hands you this, and slips into the shadows and slips away, and then I hand it to them, and it's got this message, but it's in hieroglyphics. Now they got to figure out. They got to find the primer. They got to find somebody that can decipher the thing. They're not going to be able to figure out what it is, right? Well, there's your new adventure right there. That's just part of the deal right there. So then what I would do, is I could probably copy this, cut it out, or do a primer and have that separately. And as they progress through the quest and all that, at some point they win the battle, they beat the boss, whatever it is, and I hand them the primer. Then they can decipher the message, and maybe that sets them off onto the next stage of the journey of the quest. So, and work that into a bigger campaign. So there you have a plot hook and a do-it-yourself gaming aid all in one right there. And the paper is very flimsy because it's very old. So anyway, that's just one example. Another example of the same exact type thing is, and anybody that's been to Disneyland has probably seen these. They give you these when you go on the Indiana Jones ride. But I kept mine. And what I would do with this is probably cut the Indiana Jones part off, just keep the symbols down below, and I could work that into, on a tomb wall, symbols from this, and then separately I could create a primer that the player characters would have to locate to decipher that, and I could even make that a password on this tomb or something to open the tomb, to even get it open. So they have to find the primer first, or find another NPC that can decipher it. There you go. There's another quick gaming aid. You can use it as a plot hook. You can use it as both, whatever. I keep my eyes open at all times for these types of things. So here's another example. Now, any of you that saw the movie The Da Vinci Code, and some of you probably read the book, so even if you didn't see the movie, or if you saw the movie and didn't read the book, it doesn't really matter because they reference this in both. This is a cryptex, and I'd never heard of a cryptex before I read the book, and then of course I saw the movie. And after, when it came out on DVD, there was a limited edition, collector's edition that you could get that had a cryptex in it, and it's actually a working cryptex. It actually works. And if you remember from the book and the movie, there was a vial of vinegar inside the cryptex, so that if you dropped it or disturbed it too much, it would break and it would dissolve the papyrus that was inside, and whatever message it was that was important would be destroyed. So the person would have to be careful with this. Now, if you're able to find one of these, if you decide to get that same collector's edition that I did, it comes with instructions on how to change it. You can put any code you want in here, and that comes in really handy. So I could use this in a game, say, of Dungeons and Dragons, and I could again, I could hand this to the players, and I could say, you find this in a chest along with X amount of gold, and a ring of this and a wand of that, but you find this mysterious little cylinder. It's got lettering all around it, and the dials spin, but it doesn't open for whatever reason, and let the players at the table, actually they'll start spinning the dials, trying to figure out how to open it on. That's part of they're actually physically, now they're interacting with it, trying to get it open and everything, and they're not going to be able to crack your code more than likely, but they can always try. And there's your plot hook and your do-it-yourself gaming aid all in one right there. And so what you could do then is, let's go ahead and open this. Let's see if we can get down and do this. So I put the code in, and it opens. Okay, and then inside it holds a little piece of paper. And this is the one that came with it. If I can get it out of there without destroying it. Of course, there we go. So this was the one that came with it. And it's just a code. I won't show you the whole thing because I haven't used my code yet. I don't even know if it still works. But anyway, so there's a piece of paper, and you could put your own message. And now, you're probably already ahead of me. You're probably already thinking, well, now they had to go through whatever quest. They had to figure out how to get the thing open. They had to find somebody, crack the code, whatever they had to do to get it open. And then, inside, I could write a message with this, or I could write a message with the hieroglyphics on this paper. And now, they got it open, but they still can't read it. And now they got to find the primer, and there's your next stage in the adventure. And this is all organic. This is all stuff that, you know, that the players are going to decide for them. They're going to say, crap, I can't read that. And of course, they can't read it, and they're going to say, now we've got to find out who can decipher it. Where can we find a primer? Whatever. And, of course, you, as the DM, would have it all set up to who would be the one to be able to crack code, or where they could find the primer, and you would, you know, you would hopefully be able to guide them in that direction, gently guide them, and allow them to find it on their own or whatever. And so there's another do-it-yourself gaming aid and plot twist. And finally, to prove my point of how I'm always looking for things like this, I was at a yard sale last weekend, and I saw this necklace. And it is a samurai warrior. Now what's cool about this necklace is, it's a samurai warrior, but his sword comes out. And I guess you could use that as a letter opener or whatever. And it's actually sharp. It's actually fairly sharp. So, again, I put that in upside down. So now, I find this, and let's say I decide to do a Oriental Adventures themed, because as we all know for Dungeons & Dragons, you have Oriental Adventures there's a whole hardbound book you know, dedicated to it, and there was modules for it and all that set in the Orient style of theme, and I could do that. And so I could say, okay, the player characters, you guys find this in a chest along with everything else, whatnot. And I could work it in where an NPC sees the player character later wearing this, let's say, or they go to investigate. I could say, oh well, it glows at a certain point or something like that. So they take it to a town and they try and find a shop with an alchemist or something like that to say, you know, can you identify this? You know, and that type of thing, and then that would lead them on to their next adventure. The other thing I could do is I could give it to them without this and say, here you go, and then hopefully one of the players would be looking at it and see that there's a slot, and they'd say, hey, there's a slot in this thing, that something goes in here. And here becomes your plot twist, or your plot hook. They got to find this to make this work. So, and then I lead them down, and then when they finally get to their end point and they kill the boss, whatever it is, and they get this, I could hand it to them. They could put them in, and I say, okay, as you put it in, it begins to glow, and you feel a certain power, and I could have it all written out as to what type of magic item this becomes once they've put the key in. Another way I could go with it is I could say that when they take it and they get it identified in, say, a town or something, or someone sees them wearing it, that there is a fable or a, let's say, a fable or a legend, let's say, that an amulet like this, somebody has seen something similar on a wall at a temple or a tomb or whatever, and then this becomes a key. When they have to put this, let's say there's a matching slot that they put this in on the wall, and then there's a hole next to it, and they take this out and they put it in there to open up the tomb or open up the temple, whatever. Anyway, you get my point. So again, as recent as last weekend, I find a do-it-yourself gaming aid and a plot hook right there. Okay, so we're over 15 minutes. I think you guys got the point. This is how Greyhawk 4x4 rolls. This is the kind of stuff that I do. If you ever get the opportunity to run a campaign that I DM, this is the kind of stuff you're in store. I have in store for you. If you keep your eyes open when you go to five and dime stores and secondhand stores and antique stores and all that type of stuff, you might find a nice chest. Every once in a while, and you might find a chest that would fit really good into your campaign, and you could find an antique lock to put on there and with a skeleton key, and you could work that into your thing, and you could say, at some point you could say, you've found this person's bedroom that you were told about, that you had to retrieve an item from as part of your thing, and then you take out the chest, you sit it down, and you say, well, there's the chest, and of course the thief's going to try and pick the lock and all that, and you say, well, it doesn't work, you're going to have the key. He fails his lockpick attempts, and it's a very special lock, whatever, and then they have to go on their quest to try and find the right key for this or whatever. It's a magical lock, whatever you want to come up with. And then you could have stuff in the chest, cool stuff in the chest that, and then of course your players, and let's say you are able to drag that out for a while to build anticipation, and it goes over a couple gaming sessions, and that chest still sits in your game room or whatever, your man cave, whatever you want to call it, and it sits there, and every time they come there, the players themselves are starting to think, what the heck's in there? I can't wait to open that thing. I want to know what's in there. And then they finally get to open it, and then make sure it's cool. Whatever's in there, make sure it's cool, and make sure it fits in with the campaign and everything, and there you go. So I don't know if this has been any help to anybody or not. That's just how I roll, and I'm rambling now, so we'll end it there. So we'll catch you guys on the flip side.